4-1 it finishes. Let's just confirm what that means at the top of the table. Remember, Manchester City beating Newcastle yesterday meant that they had closed the gap down to 2, but it's now restored to 5 points at the top of the table for Mikel Arteta's side. City, though, remember, do have a game in hand. Joining us, Frank Leboeuf and Jurgen Klinsmann. Jurgen, a massive win for Arsenal considering what happened midweek.
Absolutely a massive win. I mean, it was a highly interesting game, obviously, you know.
So after watching that ESPN FC breakdown, let's be very clear about one thing. This was not just a North London derby win. This was a statement from Arsenal. Yes, Manchester City closed the gap to 2 points. Yes, they have a game in hand. But pressure? Pressure was on Arsenal today. And how did they respond? 4-1, in a derby, away from home. That's title contender mentality.
Tottenham with their back against the walls, and they know that it's difficult times fighting now relegation suddenly and having a change of manager. So they went through a lot the last couple of days.
Jurgen is right. The atmosphere was electric. Tottenham Hotspur came in desperate. Relegation pressure, managerial chaos, emotion everywhere. When they equalized, the stadium believed. For a moment, it felt like momentum might swing. But here's the difference between a team fighting relegation and a team fighting for a Premier League title.
And Arsenal needed these 3 points also badly because Man City is coming back up.
Arsenal didn't panic. Right after halftime, bang, goal, then another. Game management, control, ruthlessness. That's maturity. That's growth under Mikel Arteta. And let's talk about the new signings stepping up. Big money brings big expectations. In big derby games, you need big performances. Today, they delivered. That's what separates good players from title-winning contributors. Over 90 minutes, Arsenal were simply better. More chances, more composure, more clarity in their attacking structure.
So from the beginning on, we saw a highly interesting game. I thought the energy in the stadium was unbelievable. At least it came across on TV. So supportive from the Spurs fans.
Now look at the bigger picture. 5 points clear at the top. City lurking. The mind games will start. The narratives will build. But Arsenal just sent a message. We're not blinking. As for Spurs, yes, there were positives. Yes, there was fight. But relegation pressure mixed with European football? That's a dangerous cocktail. For Arsenal, this wasn't just 3 points. This was psychological dominance. And if they keep responding like this when the heat rises, this title race is far from decided. Let me know. Are Arsenal proving they've finally learned how to handle pressure?
During the game, you said Odegaard's not in the position in the box to score on the first goal.
Right.
And that really is, that's been a problem for us.
Now this is where the debate gets really interesting, because it's not just about winning 4-1. It's about who drives Arsenal forward in the biggest moments. The discussion around Martin Odegaard versus Eberechi Eze is a serious one.
Arsenal all season, somebody from the middle of the park getting in the box and putting the ball in the back of the net, because Gyökeres hasn't been as consistently doing that as we hoped. So
let's be honest. Odegaard is tidy, intelligent, technically clean. He links play beautifully. But the real question, especially in title races, is where's the end product in the biggest games? That first goal situation says everything. Your central attacking midfielder has to attack the box. Arsenal have struggled this season with midfield runners arriving late and finishing chances.
Yeah, personally, I think Eze has to be given a chance in that spot in a run of games.
Yeah,
because it's unfair to put some.
That's been missing. And this is where Eze changes the dynamic. He might look a bit casual at times. He might lose the ball occasionally. But he has something you can't coach: unpredictability. That ability to glide past someone, slip a killer pass, or suddenly smash one into the corner.
In for a game, take him out for a game, in for another game, out in such an important position, because that is the key for Arsenal. They need somebody in the middle.
That special ingredient Craig was talking about. The biggest issue? Consistency of selection. You cannot build confidence if you're in 1 week, out the next. Shifted wide, benched, then expected to dominate centrally again, especially in a role that is the creative heartbeat of the team.
The park to go forward and either create chances, and he did that last week in the FA Cup, and then today he's scoring goals. So
under Mikel Arteta, Structure is everything. But sometimes, in a title race, you need controlled chaos. You need a player who can decide a game in one flash. Arsenal fans right now, I think many would lean toward giving Eze a real run in that number 10 role. Not one game, not two.
He has to be able to get some consistent games together to give an opportunity to be the player we know he is.
I remember when he scored.
You keep taking him in and out. He's never going to do that consistently.
I don't know how.
A proper stretch. Because if Arsenal want to stay ahead of Manchester City, they need more goals from midfield, more bravery, more box presence. The question isn't who's the tidier player. The question is, who wins you the league? And right now, that debate is wide open. Eyes.
Mikel Arteta's got a plan, yeah? He knows exactly what he wants his 11 players out there to do. How much sway do you give new players like Eze, who maybe doesn't fit one of those boxes, yet?
Now this is where I slightly disagree with the horses for courses argument. When it comes to strikers, it's not about tactics. It's about goals. You can talk about flexibility, systems, matchups, but at the end of the day, if one forward is scoring consistently, he plays. Simple. That's how title-winning teams operate.
Can add a different dimension to what you're thinking. Obviously, the narrative was, oh, Arteta doesn't trust Eze. As a manager, how do you deal with that balance?
If a striker goes on a run between now and May and fires Arsenal to a league title, he doesn't get rotated because you're playing Manchester City instead of Wolves. He becomes undroppable, and that's the reality.
Well, I think, Mikel Arteta is doing a fantastic job there. Evaluating those players every day, thinking about, who's the next opponent, what.
Now, credit to Mikel Arteta. He clearly has a plan. He evaluates daily. He thinks about structure, balance, defensive transitions. If you play someone like Eberechi Eze as a 10, you need protection behind him. That's where someone like Declan Rice becomes crucial, cleaning everything up.
Fits the best also towards that opponent that they're playing. And, he has obviously a high-quality roster with 16, 18 players at least.
That's high-level management. But here's the key. Fans don't care about weekly tactical diagrams. They care about impact. And Arsenal fans right now, that 4-1 wasn't just 3 points. It was relief. Massive relief. Derby pressure. Title pressure.
At least, where he can double the positions and he can play different formats, play different ways. Look who's on the bench. Havertz on the bench. Martinelli came.
City chasing. Spurs fighting for survival. That could have been chaotic. That could have slipped. Instead, Arsenal controlled it. Yes, the first half had moments of tension. Yes, Spurs had energy. But over 90 minutes, Arsenal looked like the team chasing a trophy, not the one fighting for its life.
Came in at the end, and then it depends, how do you want to kind of field yourself defensively? When you have Eze on the field, you play him as a 10, and behind you have what.
This one stabilizes everything. It keeps momentum. It sends a message. And maybe most importantly, it proves Arsenal are starting to handle pressure like champions. Now the real question is, can they sustain it until May? Because that's where titles are truly decided. Fire.
Oh yes, definitely. That was a real challenge, and especially for Derby, and you needed to win that game, and they did it. And
let's be fair. This wasn't just Arsenal brilliance. There was spirit from Tottenham Hotspur. Even at 4-1, you could see fight. You could see energy. And considering they were missing 10 important players through injury, that matters. In a derby, emotion can carry you places tactics can't.
Even if the first half was, let's say, so-so in the term of fighting, and I think Tottenham were very courageous and they tried their best.
But here's the reality. Spirit doesn't win you games if the quality gap is that big. Arsenal were simply superior. Once that second goal went in, you felt it. Game over. Control restored. And over 90 minutes, it would have taken a disaster class from Arsenal for this to go any differently.
Jürgen mentioned as soon as they scored a second goal, it was like already over. And it's only fair that Arsenal won that game because you can feel that they were much better.
Now I really like the point about balance in midfield. When you have someone driving into the box, attacking the goal, it frees the striker. It allows your number 9 to focus on movement, positioning, efficiency. That dynamic changes the whole forward line.
Than Spurs. Spurs had 10 men 10 important men in their team away because of injury. So it was unbalanced, I would say, in a way.
And in big derbies, that directness is crucial. Organizers are important, yes. Distributors are important, yes. But in chaos, you need runners. You need risk takers. As for Spurs relegation talk, let's comment slightly.
But overall, I have to say that and that was part of the debate, I'm very fond of Eze.
Yes, they're in trouble. Yes, the table looks uncomfortable. But are they worse equipped than teams like Nottingham Forest or West Ham United? I don't think so. The key word is spirit. If that fight continues, if they stay united, they probably survive.
In the way that he pushes himself to go to the goal, where other guy is more somebody who's organizing or distributing the game.
But survival is the ceiling right now. Meanwhile, Arsenal are looking upward, not downward. One club fighting to stay alive, the other fighting for a title. And that difference? It showed in every decisive moment of this derby. Fire.
Because of the talent they do have, yes, they got the injuries. So I thought I saw some spirit there today. Particularly when they went one behind. We sat here.
This is where the conversation about Spurs gets brutally honest. Yes, there was spirit. When they went 1-0 down, the roof didn't cave in. They responded. They equalized. The crowd stayed with them. That matters.
And talked about, listen, if they go behind, the roof could cave in. It didn't. They took the punch, and guess what? They ended up, a couple of minutes later, they equalised, and they kept going.
But here's the uncomfortable truth. When they competed becomes the headline. Standards have fallen. Tottenham Hotspur are not a newly promoted side celebrating effort. This is supposed to be a top 6 club. Competing in a derby shouldn't be praised. It should be expected.
Kept
They
fighting
did lose
to the end.
4-1 though.
Yeah, I know, but
But it was a low bar.
in terms of the spirit, that's what I'm talking
Well,
about.
even you-
Because that's what's going to keep this team up.
So during the first half,
That's
And tactically, the back three still looks confused. The spacing isn't right. When you play 3 center backs, positioning has to be perfect. One misread, one physical mismatch, and you're punished. Against Arsenal, those mistakes become goals.
so that's what they need.
right. So during
We're
the
not
first
playing
half,
Arsenal every week either.
I said to you during the first half, it's been a bit better first half from Spurs. And Stevie's like, they've only had one shot. Right. I said, yeah, that's true. But
That last goal, a lack of physicality, a lack of awareness. And in derbies, those moments define you. Now the emotional part is fascinating. On one side, relegation pressure. On the other, European football still alive.
it has been, if you looked at some of the first half performances under Thomas Frank, it's a really low bar, but it was a better first half because they at least
That's a psychological roller coaster. And this club isn't built right now to handle emotional extremes. The squad balance isn't perfect. The leadership hasn't been consistent. That's why they've hovered around 15th, 16th, 17th far too often for a club of this size. Injuries? Yes.
competed.
Yep.
But that's a sorry thing to say, is it not?
Yeah. Well, as you say, that's how low
Well,
the bar
that's suggesting that whether, I think Thomas.
But injuries don't explain everything. The bigger issue is identity. Meanwhile, Arsenal looks structured, clear, calm under pressure. Spurs, they're searching, and spirit alone won't fix long-term instability. If this flicker of hope becomes consistency, they survive. If it doesn't, that table will not be forgiving. Because in football, effort is the minimum requirement. Quality and clarity, that's what separates stability from embarrassment. Fire.